Okay, let's unpack this. You know that feeling? You've got this huge list of things to do, deadlines getting closer and closer, and,
Mm.
you absolutely know there's that one thing you really should be tackling.
Yeah, the big one staring you down.
Exactly. But what are you actually doing? Maybe watching cat videos. Or suddenly deciding your spice rack needs alphabetizing right now.
Oh, definitely. Sound familiar. It's that classic human thing we call procrastination.
It really is.
Yeah.
And while, putting something off occasionally might seem minor,
Right, no big deal.
it's worth thinking about how chronic procrastination actually affects a pretty big chunk of adults. Maybe what, 20, 25%?
Yeah, around 1 in 5, some estimates say. And even if it's not chronic for you, those individual times we delay, they can still kind of chip away at our well-being.
How so?
Well, they add stress, that sort of nagging feeling that you should be doing something else. It builds up.
Totally.
Yeah.
Makes sense. So for this deep dive, our goal is pretty clear. We want to really get into the skin of procrastination.
Understand the why behind it.
Yeah, the driving forces.
Ah,
And maybe more importantly, give you some practical, science-backed ways to actually break that cycle.
and we're pulling from different places, right?
Yeah.
Psychology, behavioral science.
hmm And even some academic research. Just trying to build a solid toolkit for you.
Okay, so let's get into the core of it. What's
Yeah.
really going on when we procrastinate? It's so easy to just say, oh, I'm being lazy.
Right. That's the default explanation.
But the research suggests it's, well, a bit more complicated than that. What's really interesting is that procrastination often acts as a kind of short-term mood fix.
A mood fix. How do you mean?
It's like an emotional response,
Yeah.
a way to dodge those uncomfortable feelings that crop up when we face certain tasks. Fear of failing, maybe.
Yes, fear of judgment.
That too. Or even just beating ourselves up internally. Self-condemnation.
Okay. So putting it off gives you a little escape from those feelings.
Exactly. You get that temporary relief. It feels better for a moment, even though, like you say, you're basically just kicking the can down the road. It makes stress worse later.
It's like hitting the emotional snooze button, isn't it? That little burst of, not right now.
Precisely. And this ties into a really cool concept, the battle between your present self and your future self.
Present self, future self. Tell me more.
So your future self is the planner. That's the part of you setting goals, thinking about long-term benefits, completing that project, learning that skill.
Right, the aspirational part.
Yeah. But then your present self comes along, and it's much more focused on immediate gratification, what feels good right now.
The cookies versus the workout dilemma.
Kind of. And that's where the conflict happens when it's time to act. The present self's desire for immediate comfort often wins those little skirmishes.
Even if it messes up the future self's big plans.
Exactly. You could even link it to something called temporal discounting.
Temporal discounting, okay.
It's just that psychological tendency we have to value rewards now much more highly than rewards later, even if the later reward is objectively way better.
The immediate reward versus the delayed benefit conundrum. We've all been there.
Yeah.
So what specifically makes those immediate things so tempting? What actually, triggers that urge to procrastinate?
Well, several key things pop up again and again in the research. Task aversiveness is a big one.
Task aversiveness.
Basically, if a task just feels boring or frustrating or just plain unpleasant,
Ugh.
our natural instinct is to avoid it. Then there's anxiety and that feeling of being completely overwhelmed.
Oh, the overwhelm is huge. Sometimes a task feels so big you don't know where to start.
Exactly. It can feel paralyzing before you even begin. And then there's perfectionism, which we should definitely talk more about.
Yes, let's. Because that drive to get everything absolutely perfect feels like it could definitely stop you in your tracks.
It absolutely can. And it's really crucial to remember that procrastination is often just a symptom, a signal pointing to something deeper.
Not the root cause itself.
Right. It usually points to some kind of emotional discomfort that we're trying, consciously or not, to avoid.
Okay, so let's dive into that perfectionism link.
Yeah.
Ben, I know so many people who say they struggle with this. How does wanting things to be perfect lead to putting them off?
It creates this really vicious cycle. Perfectionism means you set these incredibly high standards. Often, they're actually unattainable.
Right. Totally unrealistic.
So that immediately triggers a fear of failure, the worry that you just won't live up to those impossible expectations.
Makes sense.
And that can lead straight into all or nothing thinking, meaning if I can't do this perfectly, flawlessly, then what's the point? I might as well not even try.
Wow.
And of course, when tasks feel that monumental because you've set the bar so incredibly high, that feeling of overwhelm just slams into you.
Making it even harder to take that first step.
Exactly. It's like setting the high jump bar at an impossible height. You don't even want to attempt the run up.
Yeah, that visual really clicks. So it's self-sabotage, in a way.
In a way, yes. And what's really fascinating, kind of counterintuitive, is that procrastination can actually become a coping mechanism for the perfectionist.
A coping mechanism. How?
By delaying, by putting it off until the last minute, they sort of unintentionally create a built-in excuse.
Ah,
If they don't achieve that perfect outcome they were aiming for, they can blame it on the lack of time. Oh, I had a rush.
instead of questioning their own ability to meet the impossible standard?
Precisely. It protects their self-esteem in the short term,
Yeah.
even though it's ultimately really self-defeating.
That's actually a really insightful point. Wow. Okay. Now, procrastination doesn't look the same for everyone, does it? Does it show up differently depending on the situation?
Oh, absolutely. For instance, think about ADHD. While procrastination isn't like a core diagnostic symptom,
Right.
it's a very, very common experience for people with ADHD challenges with executive functions.
What are those again?
They're like the brain's management system.
Yeah.
Skills like planning, organizing, initiating tasks, managing time.
Got it.
Difficulties there can definitely make it harder to start things and see them through. Hence, more procrastination often follows.
That makes total sense. What about, say, in academics? I certainly remember some late-night essay writing sessions back in the day.
Oh, academic procrastination. That's a huge area of study. Generally speaking, the research does show a negative link between putting off coursework and, well, grades.
Yeah, seems obvious.
The more students procrastinate, the worse their academic performance tends to be. But, and this is interesting, the findings aren't always that clear-cut.
Wait, really?
Yeah, some studies have actually suggested a positive association in certain very specific contexts.
Hold on. Procrastination helping grades. That feels completely backward.
I know, it sounds really counterintuitive.
Mm.
The idea is that other factors can muddy the waters. Things like gender, level of education, where someone lives.
How they're learning, like online versus in person.
Exactly. Or even if they have a job alongside their studies, all these can influence the relationship between procrastination and academic results.
It's complicated. Give me an example.
Okay, well, some research suggests male students might procrastinate more academically than female students. Sometimes graduate students show higher levels than undergrads. Maybe because the tasks are bigger, more self-directed.
Possibly.
Students in rural areas have sometimes been found to procrastinate more. Online learners often report more procrastination than face-to-face students.
Maybe less structure,
Yeah.
less accountability.
Could be. And students juggling work and study also tend to put things off more. It seems the connection isn't just a simple A causes B.
Wow. This is way more complex than I thought. So many different things playing into it.
Exactly. It really highlights how important the specific context is. But, regardless of the setting, those negative emotional consequences of chronic procrastination, those are pretty consistent across the board.
Right. The stress, the guilt, the anxiety.
Yeah. So that leads us to the big question. What can we actually do about it? What are some real strategies to break free?
Yes, please. That's what we need. The practical stuff. Lay it on us.
Okay, let's get practical. One of the absolute best things you can do is take those huge, overwhelming tasks
Yeah.
and break them down. Chop them into much smaller, more manageable chunks. Think of it like the tiniest possible step approach.
Okay. Like instead of write the whole report.
Exactly. Maybe just commit to write the introduction, or even just outline the main points. Or open the document and write one sentence.
Huh. Okay. The tiniest step.
It can be surprisingly powerful for quieting that emotional brain, that resistance, and reducing that I'm totally swamped feeling.
I like that. It makes starting feel so much less scary.
It really does. Another tactic, actively try to make the task itself more appealing somehow.
Like how? Gamify it.
Yeah, exactly. Turn it into a little game or competition with yourself. Maybe see if you can finish one small section faster than you thought you could.
Okay.
Or put on some music you enjoy while you're working. That can help. And definitely think about setting up a reward for yourself.
Ah, the carrot.
Yep. Something you actually look forward to. Once you finish a small piece or the whole thing, celebrate the progress.
Positive reinforcement. That makes sense. Good motivator.
It really is. Another technique to try is task rotation. If you have, say, 2 tasks you're dreading,
Mm-hmm.
try switching between them. Work on one for, 20 minutes, then switch to the other for 20 minutes.
Oh, interesting. Keep it fresh.
Kind of. helps maintain interest and stops you getting totally bogged down in one unpleasant thing. Similarly, just commit to a tiny amount of time. Tell yourself, I'll just work on this for 5 minutes or 10 minutes.
Just 5 minutes.
Often, once you start, you build a little momentum and you end up working longer than you initially planned. It's getting over that initial hump.
That initial inertia, that always feels like the hardest part.
It often is. And what if the reason you're avoiding something is simply because you feel like you don't know how to do it?
Right. Lack of knowledge or skills.
Then the key is seeking out training or information. Find a course, ask a knowledgeable friend, watch some tutorial videos online. Gaining that competence can really lower the resistance.
Makes sense. And what about, just not doing it at all?
You mean delegation? Absolutely. We shouldn't forget that. If it's possible and appropriate, consider if someone else with the right skills could handle it. You don't have to do everything yourself.
That's a really good reminder. Sometimes we get tunnel vision thinking it has to be us.
We do. And shifting to the mental game, consciously challenging those negative thoughts that fuel procrastination.
Like I'm going to fail anyway.
Exactly. Replace that with more positive self-talk. Remind yourself of past successes. Focus on the skills you do have.
Easier said than done sometimes, but important.
Definitely. And try to identify the specific feelings that trigger your urge to procrastinate.
Yeah.
Is it fear? Is it shame? Is it boredom?
Getting specific about the trigger emotion.
Yeah. Because once you know your personal triggers, you can develop more targeted ways to manage them when they pop up.
So it's really about tuning into those emotional signals before you react by avoiding.
Precisely. And also normalizing the resistance. It's okay to not feel like doing something.
Right. It doesn't make you a bad person.
Not at all. Acknowledge the feeling, accept it without beating yourself up, and then gently try to move forward anyway. And let go of perfectionism. Embrace good enough.
Ah, the good enough principle.
Yeah, often getting something 80% done and out the door is way better than striving for an impossible 100% and ending up with 0% done.
Progress over perfection. That's a good mantra.
It really is. And recognize that sometimes avoiding a decision is also procrastination.
Oh, good point. Indecision is delay.
Exactly. Sometimes making a decision, even if it's not the absolute perfect one, is better than staying stuck. Learn from it and move on.
Yeah.
Try reframing projects. Treat them like experiments. Less pressure, outcome isn't fixed.
I like that experiment sounds less scary than final project.
Doesn't it? And maybe the most crucial mindset shift.
Yeah.
Self-compassion. Be kind to yourself when you slip up and procrastinate.
Instead of the usual self-criticism spiral.
Exactly. That criticism actually makes it harder to get back on track. Forgiving yourself for past delays can genuinely help break the cycle for the future.
So ditch the guilt trip. It's counterproductive.
Totally. Yeah. And try not to label yourself, I am a procrastinator.
Why not? If it feels true.
Because labels can become self-fulfilling prophecies. Think of it more like procrastination is a behavior I sometimes do, rather than it's who I am.
That's a subtle shift.
Yeah.
But I can see how that could be powerful, reframing it.
It really can. And remember rewards. Use them to reinforce progress after you've done something, generally more effective than bribing yourself beforehand.
Okay, reward after, not before.
Make sure you have clear priorities, know what really needs doing first, and consciously shift your focus. Try to think less about the immediate relief of avoiding the task.
And more about.
More about the long-term benefits, the satisfaction, the sense of accomplishment you'll feel when it's done, creating clarity around your goals, why this work matters to you. That helps fight overwhelm and perfectionism too.
Right. Connecting the mundane task back to the bigger picture. Why am I doing this filing? Because it contributes to X goal.
Exactly. And get everything out of your head. Capture every single to-do, big or small, write it down, use an app, whatever works.
Avoid that vague cloud of stuff I need to do.
Yes. That cloud is paralyzing. Get it listed, organize, review it regularly, set realistic deadlines. And let's quickly mention some specific time management techniques people find helpful.
Okay, like tools.
Yeah, tools and systems getting things done, or GTD. Have you heard of that?
Vaguely.
Yeah.
It's about getting tasks out of your head, right?
Exactly. Externalize everything so your brain isn't constantly juggling it all. Then there's the Pomodoro technique.
Ah, yes, the timer one, 25 minutes on, 5 minutes off.
That's the classic setup. Work in focus bursts, take short breaks, helps with focus, prevents burnout. You can adjust the times, of course.
Right.
There's time blocking, where you actually schedule blocks in your calendar for specific tasks, like 9:10 a.m., work on Project X.
Very structured.
And time boxing, similar, but you set a fixed time limit to achieve a specific goal. I will finish drafting this section in 60 minutes. And don't forget the simple 2-minute rule.
If it takes less than 2 minutes?
Do it immediately. Don't even put it on a list. Just get it done.
Those are all really concrete actions anyone could try. I'm definitely going to look into Pomodoro more.
It's super popular for a reason.
Mm.
And another clever trick, temptation bundling.
Temptation bundling. Sounds fun.
It kind of is. You link something you want to do with something you tend to avoid doing. Like maybe you only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcast while you're cleaning the bathroom, or watch your guilty pleasure TV show while you're folding laundry.
Huh. Pairing the fun with the not so fun.
Mm.
I like it.
It works. You can also design your environment. Use commitment devices. Make procrastination harder. Delete distracting apps off your phone for a while, maybe.
Ooh, bold move.
Or buy snacks in single-serving packs if you tend to overindulge while avoiding work. For recurring tasks, create templates or checklists.
Why is that helpful?
Reduces the mental energy needed to just get started. You don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. And if you need accountability, check out platforms like FocusMate, virtual co-working.
Right, having someone else there working too.
Yeah, exactly. It really seems to boil down to finding the mix of strategies that clicks for you, your work style, and the tasks you face.
Yeah, it's not one size fits all.
Definitely not. And please don't underestimate digging into those deeper emotional roots. Why does this specific activity make you feel uneasy? Understanding that can be a game changer.
Right, addressing the underlying why.
Some ideas from approaches like the now habit can help too. Things like prioritizing leisure time guilt-free, tracking your time non-judgmentally, finding ways to reduce fear.
It all comes back to just getting started, doesn't it? That initial push.
So often, yes. Be aware of the excuses, the reason-giving your mind cooks up. Cultivate self-awareness about your patterns. Recognize procrastination as a self-regulation challenge, something you can actively work on improving.
Like strengthening a muscle.
Kind of. Be mindful of those cognitive biases too, like optimism bias, thinking things will take less time than they do.
Guilty, or the planning fallacy.
Yeah, and just watch out for inertia. Once you start procrastinating, it's easy to keep procrastinating. Actively try to shift that momentum.
Wow. Okay, it really sounds like overcoming procrastination isn't about finding some magic bullet.
No quick fix.
It's more about building this personalized toolkit of strategies and, maybe more importantly, cultivating a different mindset towards yourself and the work.
Precisely. It's an ongoing journey, really, a process of self-discovery and trying things out.
So let's try and wrap this up a bit.
Yeah.
We've really explored the why behind procrastination, from avoiding uncomfortable emotions.
That present self versus future self conflict.
Right, the perfectionism trap, and how it shows up differently depending on the context, like with ADHD or in academics.
And then we loaded you up with a ton of practical strategies, breaking tasks down, making them engaging.
Those time management techniques like Pomodoro and time blocking.
Essential mindset shifts too. Self-compassion, good enough. Challenging negative thoughts.
Getting clarity on your goals.
And it's so vital to remember this isn't about becoming some kind of perfectly productive, procrastination-free robot. That's not the goal.
Right, it's a journey.
It's a journey. And it takes time. And like we keep saying, kindness towards yourself is key. So we really hope you'll experiment. Play around with these ideas. Find what works for you and your specific triggers.
Definitely. So here's a final thought we want to leave you with. Think about the long-term impact. What happens when you consistently start to address procrastination in your life?
It's more than just getting more done, isn't it?
Way more.
Yeah.
Think about how it could affect your overall sense of control, your well-being, your confidence, your ability to actually go after the goals that matter to you with maybe a bit more ease.
Yeah. What kind of possibilities might open up for you when that roadblock, that thing that keeps tripping you up, starts to actually fade away? Something to think about.